on him, please look at them. I'll list them in the description. But he is here to go on the record and clear up some things regarding everything from what went on at Maui Police Department before the incident on August 8th, some things that went on afterwards, and just go into some of the evidence we found that supports corruption and collusion within the Maui Police Department. So everyone, please welcome retired Assistant Chief Clyde Holokai. So Clyde, thank you so much for being here. This is one of the highlights of the whole journey that I've been on. So just in case some people are not completely familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, and why you are coming on record and talking.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Tracy. I appreciate it. And what you're doing is really important. Born and raised Maui. I have 3 kids that I was raising here also. I had 28 years with the police department at the time I retired. Been blessed to have worked in various areas from patrol to CID as a detective, went back as a captain, district commander for Wailuku, Kihei, assistant chief of all 3 bureaus actually at one point, the uniform services support and the investigative services. Through my career, I've been very, very honored to be able to help a lot of people. And why I'm speaking out is because a lot of people right now are afraid to. I mean, this is a chief who came in on his first day and told everybody, if you go against me, I will fillet you.
Yeah.
And he's done it. They've seen him do it. So for me, it's been hard to watch and what's going on. Even though I've been retired, I hear people talking about retirement and how, oh, it's so good. I'm glad that we're not there anymore. I cannot say that, because I have a connection to this department, to this community. I've been living here, and to see what's happening and to be able to foresee down the line what's coming for the community without them knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. And it's something that troubles me, and to see that numerous people are doing the right thing. They're filing their complaints, which is their right. They're speaking out and nothing is getting done. That's troublesome, because I believe even when I was in the department going up through the ranks, every rank you go to is more accountability, more responsibility. And you have more responsibility to serve those that depend upon you.
Right.
Accountability goes up also with that. And
Right.
there seems zero accountability going on. And that bothers me, because without accountability, we know the kind of problems that can arise with a person that's in charge.
Yeah. All right. So by the time this airs, we're going to have already released some information about the previous chief, Tivoli Faumu. So can you tell us a little bit about what he was like and how our perspective is he was kind of pushed into early retirement or to resign. What was he like, and how was that? How was his resignation for you all?
Chief Faumu, actually, I didn't really work with him until it was like maybe a year before he retired. He promoted me to assistant chief. I always known that he had a very good heart for the department, for the community. The reasons why he left, I'm not sure if he was pushed or not, but I suspect that it was revolving around his motor vehicle accident that he had, where he revealed to somebody at the mall.
Mm-hmm.
But I can only speculate on that.
Okay. So another thing we're starting to uncover is the police commissioner, Mark Redeker, and it's been reported he had an adversarial relationship with Chief Faumu. Is this something you're familiar with, or?
I had heard, and I had also heard that he was the one vote on the police commission that had voted to have Chief Faumu retire, not in good standing, which would have meant he would have lost some of his retirement benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nothing that I have seen, but I did hear that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that actually is true. Unfortunately, Commissioner Rediker was the only one who voted in favor of that, so it didn't pass.
Okay. And then regarding this supposed hit and run, do you know who those officers were that wrote him up and wrote the extended report?
Yes. Oh man, I was just talking. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with names.
You don't have to give
I
names,
did read
but
the 100 I did read the 158-page report, but I got the redacted version and those two officers' names were redacted from the report.
I will tell you something about those two officers. You're not going to find more stand-up guys. I cannot speak enough
Okay.
about their integrity.
Okay.
Very good cops, young officers,
Okay.
asset to the department.
Right. As I recall, they did write it down as a minor motor vehicle accident report, and then I believe Honolulu escalated that to a major MVA.
Yeah, I believe there might be a difference in the way they define it. For us, the minor is no injuries and under $3,000 worth of damage. So as you can see, it was a
Correct.
what if out there was $3,000 and obviously no injuries. So
yeah. Okay, so another thing that we've recently dug up is this there was a ethics violation that Commissioner Rediker was accused of regarding giving sensitive information to who is now, Chief John Pelletier. But before he got this position, are you privy to any of this information that was given to him before he went in for his testing and interview?
not before, but afterwards, looking back on it, it was pretty. You've seen him speak, and when he's at a press conference or wherever he's at, he gets a question. He really catches him off guard. It's
Mhm.
obvious. In that interview for the chief, there was nothing that caught him off guard. He was smooth. You
Yeah.
know, we'll say that definitely.
Okay. So another thing that is really catching people's attention and is very questionable is the salary commission wanted to wait 6 months in order to consider a raise for Chief Pelletier. He asked for it 50 days after his start date, which a lot of people pushed back on. So, what do you think, or why do you think the commission gave him this? It was actually 46 and change, 46,000 more on top of what he started with.
I will say this in my own opinion. I've been in front of that commission, the police commission at times, and it always appeared like they wanted more and more control of the department. That is against their bylaws and not to have any sort of say in operational day-to-day business of the department. They fire, they hold accountable the chief, period. Out of Mark Whitaker's own mouth, he did say that he has accomplished everything we have asked him. It's in the
Yes,
recording
he
of.
did say that.
So what are
Okay,
you
so
asking? And if he's accomplished it, what are they doing? They're running the day-to-day. So
okay, so all right. Um, Shane, was there something else you wanted to
Well, I
add?
did want to revisit Mark Rediker really quickly. I wanted to ask if you think the commission itself was colluding with Rediker, or did Rediker simply tell Pelletier what to say to win them over without their knowledge?
there were certain commissioners who would look down and not pay attention when any other candidates were speaking and would drop everything as soon as Pelletier started talking. Not, but it was
Okay.
towards the end.
Okay,
So
I didn't know that. All right, Shane, is there, I gotta pull up my questions. There's something else before we move on to Terry Jones,
Um,
commission?
Not really. I mean, I did have one question about the salary commission, like why they didn't wait 6 months, but you probably aren't privy to that information anyway.
yeah, I'm not, and I don't. Yeah, I don't understand.
Okay, oh, something about the complaints. So we did find out, and I believe yours was one, you and Hankins made official complaints within his first 8 months on the job. He already had at least 7 official complaints And the commission, you would expect them to do something to him. Did they do anything? And if they didn't, why?
None. They did nothing to him. Well, let me put it this way. First of all, they said that the complaints were unfounded, and that's not true. They were
Right.
sustained. Um, Now, with those types of complaints, we need to understand that they're special in the fact that they were hostile work environments, harassment in the workplace. It's supposed to be zero tolerance, which means you're done. I want to say a year or maybe a year and a half before he came, there was a prosecutor who got in trouble. He had one complaint of a hostile work environment. It got sustained and he was fired.
Yeah.
Now here you buddy with 7.
Mm-hmm.
If all of them were sustained, but I know for a fact at least 2 were. And they said at the time, the chair of the commission said, it's not sustained, it's unfounded. However, we will give him a coach to help him with his way of, what's just the wording he used?
Management.
Mismanagement, exactly, his management skills. That coach was never hired. Well, first of all, if you have a chief who needs a coach, is he ready to be chief? I've been through many chiefs at the police department, and there's a learning curve for all of them, but not one had to reach out for a coach. Which, who's going to pay for that? The county, the taxpayers. And I want to say it, if we have a chief who needs a coach on his management skills, is he ready?
Right.
Wow. Absolutely not.
Right. I've never heard of a chief coach.
Yeah. So I remember they put it in the Maui News how none of the complaints were sustained. That's a lie. It was. It was.
All right. So about the hostile work environment, you've been working for him. It's been a little bit, and I know I saw your interview about how the stress was getting to you, the weight loss, and just how much it affected your life. I think a lot of us can kind of commiserate with that. Maybe not as bad as what you were experiencing, but what was the last straw that made you say, "I'm retiring, I can't"?
So at that time, I was in charge of the Uniform Services Bureau, which is in charge of patrol, all the districts. There was an officer, a recruit. Now, when you're a recruit, you go through 4 phases of field training. Each phase you have to pass in order to get to the last one, which is the final phase. If you fail each one, you get 1 retry. If you fail the retry, you're done. Every single time you fail, you have to write what we call a two-from, or a report up to the chief saying, I understand that I failed this phase. I will try again. If I don't make it, I understand that I will be terminated. And it lists the reasons why, along with the coach's reasoning. Now, I've been a field training officer. I've been a sergeant in the field. I've been a lieutenant, watch commander in the field. I understand how important it is to groom young people to become officers. At the same time, there's certain things we really look out for. Not responding to training is one of them, especially in the areas of officer safety. That's something that can get the officer or somebody in the public hurt or killed. And we've studied many different cases where they slide officers through, something happens in the field, they die, or somebody else dies as a result. And then you look at their training regimen, you realize they should never have been passed. Well, we had an officer who was struggling, and he seemed like a good enough person, but he was struggling. And this was his 4th phase. He submitted his report up. And each time he was failed based off of officer safety issues. And again, not responding to training. The 4th one, he wrote it up and he said, I understand these are my issues. And he listed them. I understand what's going to happen if I fail. I forwarded it to the chief. I put my comments and I forwarded it to the deputy at the time, Hank, and Chief Pelletier. Next thing I know, this officer is grabbed from, he was working in a busier district, a different district. He was working on the south side of the island, District In Kihei, a day watch. He was removed and taken to District 1, which is admittedly a busier district, but he was put on the midnight shift where there's hardly any work.
Mm.
Without my knowledge. And then all of a sudden he was passed. This young man has a father that's working up in the mayor's office.
Mm.
So he was then, I want to say maybe it was the next week, we had a commander's meeting. All the commanders sitting there, including also a representative from Corporation Counsel, Moana Luti. And the chief turns to us and starts talking about this guy, this young officer, and says how it was ridiculous how he was being failed just because he didn't know how to handcuff people. That is a lie. I saw the paperwork. So what the chief did was he said, what I did was I taught him how to handcuff and I put him back on the street. Now, there's a couple of things with that. Right off the bat, you see is wrong, right? That's not the issue. Okay? If that's my son and he gets put on the road where a job he's not ready for and he gets hurt, who's responsible? Yeah, I used to be a defensive tactics instructor. I literally wrote the book on the tactics for the department. I was never consulted. Yeah, with this. I know that even I right now, being a former instructor, liability-wise, yes, I can teach somebody how to go and handcuff the correct way. Liability-wise, I cannot. I have to still be an instructor. I have to be certified. There's have to be a paper trail in case something happens and that officer gets hurt due to his inability to handcuff. Mm. Needless to say, Chief Pelletier was not or never has been an instructor in handcuffing in our department. Now, the Corporation Counsel attorney who was sitting there was deeply attached to our defensive tactics program for years. In fact, she was the first civilian to allow herself to get tasered because she would be the one who would defend us in court in use of force types of issues. So she knows that what he's saying can get him in trouble, get the department in trouble, not to mention this young man. And she sat there and she shook her head like you're in agreement with him. Mm. And I told myself, this is going on without me knowing, without my, that was the first one. Then we had an officer, young officer, he was driving home, got into a car crash, crashed into some homes. Our officers get there on the scene. They do the right thing. They identify him as an off-duty officer and they say, hey, we smell liquor. So they call our DUI task force. One of the sergeants who responded just arrested a fellow officer less than 6 months ago. So these guys in DUI, they're fanatical about that. Hmm. He's not gonna have any hesitation in doing what's right. It's all on body cam too, by the way. So he pulls the officer out of the car, runs him through the field, all on body cam. Then he says, you know what, I'm not seeing anything. And he confers with two other DUI experts. And not to mention, the sergeant that was on scene for patrol is another DUI expert in court. 3. They conclude that, yes, maybe he was drinking, but he's tired. I watched the field test. And even though I'm not an expert, I can see, this kid's not drunk. He's, And so the officer sergeant asked him, what's going on? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I had a beer after. And I believe this was either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. Mm. We were all working, I had one after and I'm just tired, man. I'm working on 16-hour shift, whatever. Okay. So they document the case. They forward everything up. They do everything they're supposed to. They notify all the officials up the chain that night. The chief knew that night. And the reason why I know he knew is because I am listed on the email chain with him along with the deputy at that time. So they drive him home. So they, just be safe. And later on, he tows his car. Well, that's when myself and Hankins are called into the office the next day by the deputy, wanting to know why this officer wasn't given a preliminary breath test. One of those little PBTs.
Mhm.
And we explained to him, we said the PBT is given per our policies only if there is indications of liquor. This boy had no indications. And so I gave him the body cam footage. I gave him the police report. And he called us into the office the next day wanting to write up the sergeant. I wanted to write up this sergeant because he didn't give him the PBT. And we're trying to explain to him, there's no violation. What are we going to write him up for? Because our policies don't say that it's mandatory. Yeah, maybe, you know, he should have, but there's no violation. Okay, you're going to write him up, or I'm writing you up. And I'm like, what did you even look at the body cam? No, I don't need to. You're going to write him up, or I'm writing you guys up. And further, he wanted a policy to make any type of issue with liquor with any of our employees, whether it's sworn or civilian, make it mandatory that they have to take a preliminary breath test or they get fired. So he said, hold on, that's against their constitutional rights, first of all. And the 2 unions or the 3 unions we deal with, they're going to have a field day with that.
Yeah.
Do it anyway. So, okay, you're the boss. We'll put it together. Now, like how we usually do with this kind of thing, we reach out to the experts, corporation counsel, we reach out to the prosecutors. Prosecutors say, we can't do it. You can't do it. That's against their constitutional rights. And that's going to screw up all these future cases we have going on down. We get yelled at for reaching out. And then Hankins and I get written up for what they called reluctant compliance.
Mm.
What does this mean? Well, you did what we told you, but you were reluctant about it. Yeah, because you're violating these guys' rights.
Oh man.
That for me, I was done.
That was the last.
That was it. You know what? I'm gonna get myself in. They're gonna do something like moving this young officer without me knowing. Something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna get the blame.
Yeah.
Saw what was happening. I couldn't speak out. A big part of me retiring was that it gives me an ability to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
Because of policies and procedures within the department. You know, so for me, that was it. That was the last.
Do you think these actions were deliberately to push out the good officers, or
Yes.
was it just how you think it was deliberate?
Oh, I think. Well, first of all, I think that's just how they are. Number one.
Yeah.
Yes, I do believe they were targeting certain officers, and the reason why I say that more so is because later on, it came to light that they knew that there was another candidate for chief, Vic Ramos, and he didn't get it, but it was well known within the department that if he did, I was going to be his deputy.
Okay.
One of the things that they touched on right off the bat, my first meeting with them, I said, look, I get it, but even though I would have loved to have been the deputy in order to help make some good changes, I don't like the political aspect of it. So I'm good. I'm here to support you guys. You know, I could have retired. In fact, I was going to retire with the rest of the executive staff, but my good friend Ricky Uidoi talked me out of it.
Oh,
And he was right. You know, hey, let's support this guy. Let's see what he has and see what he does. And hopefully we can help him make this department even better.
mm-hmm.
The whole thing behind it. But once I started seeing these things, and there was people were contacting Pelletier way before he had actually taken office. He was named. There was officers contacting him. I was told to call him. In my opinion, that wasn't my place. No, culturally, Hawaii and Vegas is very different. And not that one's better than others. It's just different. And for me, it wasn't my place to reach out to him. I'm not saying that it was his, but it just wasn't mine.
Yeah.
My meeting with them, he got very offended that I never reached out. And I told him the same thing. I said, it's not my place.
Mm.
Other officers were, including one officer that was implicated in that issue with those 2 officers who made the case against former Chief Fa'omo.
Oh.
And wrote him an email saying all kind of outlandish things, such as I was going to myself and I believe another captain or so was going to have all the officers stop responding to any sort of case or 911 calls or something like that. And he said that he took that as the gospel truth, and that's why he did what he did. Now, my thing is, if you believe it, investigate us. That's what you have internal affairs for. That's what you have the FBI for. Do it. I always told my guys, the only time you're going to be afraid of an investigation is if you did wrong.
Something.
And if I didn't do wrong, and I didn't, I have deep ties to this community, I would not put them at risk over my pride. That's not right. You know, so yes, I do believe that certain officers, including myself, were. Let me say, I don't regret leaving. I miss it. I miss the camaraderie. I mean, this was a big part of my life for 28 years. I miss most of the people, you know, but I don't regret leaving, especially seeing what's going on now. You know, so yes, I do believe that we were targeted, especially in that first meeting when they both tell me, "Oh, we've heard a lot about you."
Good thing.
Just being the two of them, we've heard a lot about you.
Yeah. All right, that's very interesting. So, okay, Shane, did I miss something before we go on to Terry Jones?
No.
We covered the stuff we wanted to. Okay, so
Yeah.
Clyde, if you can tell us a little bit about Terry Jones, her accident, the timing of it, and I understand you were on scene. So what did you see? What did you know about her? And, you know, how did that experience of seeing her accident scene, you know, seem to you?
You know, when you go to a scene, you're on cop mode. It hit me later, but at the scene, we have stuff we got to do. You know, you don't think about it until it did hit me hard later, because she is somebody we all came up in the department. She is somebody who would bend over backwards. I did see a change in her when Pelletier took over, and from what I understand, she was delivering mail. She had her purse. I believe she pulled over on the side of the road to take a nap. It was very early in the morning. Somebody reached into the car, took the purse, and a chase ensued. And she was chasing the person. They came down this one stretch right in front of King Kikalike High School, sharp right, and she was going too fast. Hit the tree, and she went through the window, the front windshield. We get up there, and the deputy and the chief are there, and they're asking us, they wanted to make a homicide case. And we're telling them, we checked with our prosecutors, it's not going to fly because she's chasing the other person. And they have, well, any place else, it would be a homicide. So what they did was they got on the phone with Vegas and started asking them what kind of case they had, because they didn't believe us.
No.
So, now, mind you, these are the same people during our first commanders meeting who yelled at Terry in front of everybody. The deputy, he was trying to explain. They came into the commanders meeting, and in our department, lieutenants are commanders also. It depends on what unit they're in. If there's no captain, the lieutenant is considered a commander. So when they told Terry we're going to schedule a commanders meeting, she emailed the usual suspects, all the you know. So they're sitting there, they're wondering what lieutenants are doing. And it was just like this. Who are you? Get out of here. Who are you? Leave. These are guys who had been there and done their time and sweat and bled for this community for years prior to that, and they're being dismissed like this. So the deputy turns and he's trying to find out why there's lieutenants here, and Terry's trying to explain to him, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the chief. Just like that in front of everybody. Yet they come out to her scene and they're both coming off like they were her best friends. When I personally had seen Terry break down in her car crying, sitting in her. That's one of the things that gets to me is you say these things, but behind closed doors, the story is much, much different.
Yeah, he did that public outcry about how wonderful she was, how much she meant to him. But yeah, looking at the complaints doesn't seem like that was what was going on.
You notice that myself and Hankins weren't there in that press conference. We weren't invited.
Oh, oh,
That was like I was downstairs at the time trying to. My men were hurt because everybody knew her. So
yeah.
I was concerned with their officer wellness. So I had counselors downstairs and everything. And Hankins was initially invited, but when he told the chief he was going to tell the truth, basically, he wasn't called after. And then by the time we realized they had the press conference, it was over.
He's not allowed to come. That's interesting. Oh, Shane, I didn't think that they were trying to pin it on make it a homicide.
That's what they wanted. They couldn't understand. That's not the first time I've heard that. There's been other cases where, well, any place else it would have been a homicide, but not here, I guess.
Um, so
Very
I assume that her daughter was left behind at the scene of the theft. Is that correct?
No. When I got to no, her daughter wasn't with her. We had to send somebody
Oh,
to the scene of the accident after me. I remember because I saw her coming out of her car. Yeah, she was doing it.
oh, okay. So she was delivering for her daughter. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
So she was by herself
Yeah.
when the theft happened.
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything from the accident scene that you thought was suspicious or, didn't go along with the official story? Or
No, but then again, I haven't really been paying attention to what their story is. When I got there, I talked to my investigators as well as Hankins, and I listened to them because everything's based off of their evidence that's on the ground.
was there an actual cause of death? Because I know when Pelletier did the press conference, he didn't say, all he said was she was pronounced dead at the scene. But when we look at the picture, uh, it didn't look like the windshield was really that came outwards. It looked like it was, Shane, it looked like it was pressed in from the outside.
I
Or
forget.
am
Well,
I
I couldn't tell
remembering?
from the photo. There was damage to the windshield, but it didn't look like direct impact damage. And I was told that the airbag had inflated.
Okay, that was
Is that correct from your recollection?
I believe so. If sorry, my cat's getting tiger. Sorry. Cause of death would have been on the autopsy report.
Did you get
So
a chance to
Okay.
see the report?
yes, but I forget what it said as far as the cause of death. That you would have to check with Hankins.
Okay. All right. Okay, Shane, that's all for Terry Jones. Was there anything else we wanted to clear up about the Terry Jones incident? Shane? No?
Um, Not that I know of. I mean, I assume that that also contributed to your early retirement as well, having experienced that like right beforehand.
You know, it was more how they treated it that really bothered me. Like a cycle. She was a very respected person in our department, and everybody knew it that they didn't treat her very well.
Mm,
And off later,
Mm,
like they did, was very disrespectful, and that bothered me a lot. Terry deserved better.
yeah.
I agree.
Terrible, terrible things that follow this man around. So in your own words, what do you think is the most important things we need to know about Chief Pelletier, Commissioner Rediker, and Shane? Was there another one that we wanted to? I just have your Pelletier, Rediker.
The Well, I was curious about how the police commission in Honolulu actually had escalated the original report to a major incident, which it was probably written up correctly originally, but yeah, everything that's uncovered since then, it seems to be more pressing and more of a priority, actually. So I guess at this point, our question would be, what do we need to know about Pelletier, Redeker, MPD, or even the Honolulu Police Commission, and what actions should be taken for recourse and accountability?
We're just hoping that everybody just wants the police commission to give a fair look into these complaints that are coming out. I mean, they just fired the head of the HR. There was no write-ups, no investigation. And one of the reasons that's listed in writing was that she had filed complaints against the chief. That's her right.
Mhm.
That's her complaints. Anything taken because of that course of action is retaliation.
Yes.
And the thing is, if you look at the write-up or the reasons, there were reasons like, oh, you said you don't respect the chief. Come on. I've worked with this lady. She is one of the most professional, intelligent, and hardworking. This is how dedicated she is. I talked to her the day she got fired, and she's in tears. And she's telling me, oh, but I'm worried because I was working on all the different grants for the station, for the officers, and they're sitting on my desk. So I'm wondering if I should ask them if at the very least I can take those home with me and finish them up and take them back. That's how dedicated she is.
Wow.
This is also a lady who is high ranking in the military. And he broke her down. She's crying. This is the same one that filed a complaint, multiple complaints, and the thing is, they weren't unsubstantiated or not justified. They were found substantiated, justified.
So what do you think most people are afraid of that are still serving in the department? What are they afraid of?
They're afraid of this happening to them. I mean, think about it, because if the day it happened, I looked at all the reasons that she had told me. She's gonna win. She's gonna be very well paid by our county. But in the meantime, the years of, not to mention, he fired her husband also because he spoke out. The two of them now, for years, will have to fight. In the end, they will win. So I asked myself, why would they do this? Right? What is a statement? The next day, he had his chief of staff and others going to the different stations telling everybody, did you hear we fired Melissa? Did you hear we fired her? Did you hear we fired her? Why is this? Making an example. Making an example of what happens when people speak out. People are afraid. He holds their livelihood in their hands. In the first meeting, he told us, if any of you go against me, I will mess with your retirements. Why would he do that? First meeting, all his commanders, the very first meeting, all his commanders sitting there. Now, these are the people the day before, when his deputy and he and I talked, I told him, yes, because he was upset that prior to him coming in, we had 2 meetings of all the commanders. This is the first time, right? This is exactly what I told him. This is the first time this has happened to our department. We have somebody from the outside who nobody's familiar with coming over to take the lead. So yes, some people were venting, some people were saying other things, but bottom line is, we love this department, so we're going to support you. I told him, yes, these guys at the meeting, they're very critical, but they also are the ones with the deepest ties to this community and this department, and they will die for you. All you got to do is meet them halfway. One of the things that people were upset about is during his testimony to get chief, he called us all corrupt. He said, this is the most corrupt department. I believe it's minute 8. And when I brought that up, I said, no, how is that not going to offend us?
Projecting.
That nobody, I said this before, I'll say it again. Nobody hates corrupt cops more than clean ones. And yes, our department back then had not been perfect. I personally had to investigate many friends, and it's not easy. It's not. One day you're sitting there training with them, the other day, next day, you might have to arrest them. But that's what we do.
Yeah.
there were corrupt officers, but now we're seeing corruption on a systematic level.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah. So we've been finding, yeah. So I guess we could kind of wrap it up. I think we've been, yeah, this has been a pretty good, a good amount of information. Is there anything else that you want to share with my audience? Any last words or?
Yes, you know, we still have, I know we use the word corrupt a lot, and I just want to say, you know, we still have a lot of good cops out there. And not just cops, but the women and the men that make up the department that are not sworn, you know, from the secretaries, the clerks, to the evidence techs, to the records people, and the dispatchers. They work really, really hard. You know, the dispatchers, when there's an emergency, on their own, they report to the station. They don't even have to be called. And these are people who are overworked already. You know, our officers in Lahaina that night, they proved themselves. Where was the chief? It's like I was talking to one of my friends that night that had work, and he goes, it's like going into the Super Bowl on your first string, you don't want to play. Where's it? Plays ACs. Those are the leaders they need. Our county really does not understand at this point yet the peril that it's in if it continues going this way. But I don't want them to think that when we say corrupt, when we talk bad about the department, that it's the whole department. You have a lot of good people who are still there. Unfortunately, though, you have a lot that are thinking of leaving. Those are the ones that you got to keep because they have the integrity and they're like, this is not happening. I can't be a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
In a busy year, we used to have 3 retirements tops in a year. In 6 months, he had 12.
Wow.
All that knowledge. Those are guys who fought those other fires, by the way. Gone. So I want our people out there to know that we still have guys and women who bleed blue and they bleed for the community. And so I'm speaking out. I miss those people. I want to be with them. I know they're struggling. I care about the community. My kids raised here. I grew up here. I don't want to see where it's going. We've seen what's happened in the mainland when things turn this way.
Yeah.
And at this point, he's still trying to hire guys from Vegas.
Yeah.
We have enough local talent. The local people are invested. They know how to, they know the different cultural aspects, which is something Steve has failed and refused even to embrace.
Yeah.
He can throw out Hawaiian words, though.
Yeah, we noticed.
He get a tribal that doesn't make you Hawaiian.
No. That's amazing. So thank you so much. I wasn't expecting, I know you still have deep ties to the department. So I really appreciate you pointing that out because there's kind of this movement in the country, like, cops are bad and everything, but it's not always the case. So I really appreciate you saying that. And thank you so much for your time. If you would be willing to come on again, we'd love to have you back on. We're going to continue to dig into the corruption, the collusion, and stay on top of this as long as I can, I guess.
Keep going.
So,
Appreciate the two of you. You're needed, and we appreciate it.